Hey, what's up, family? This is Doug Reed with the Let's Go Show. I am super excited today. I have my man, Jumaine Jones, NBA player, played with various teams, and we'll get into that. But I got him on. Me and Jumaine been close, I guess, since Jumaine, the Black Man Hill Gala, I think, right?
Yeah, about 2 years. About 2 years.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. And
Little,
just,
little over 2 years. Yeah.
yeah, and just, we just vibed off each other,
Yeah.
and that was always a beautiful thing, man. So, let's get right into it, man. So, tell me, who is Jumaine Jones?
Uh, this young kid from Cocoa, Florida, born and raised. Um, grew up in a bad neighborhood. Witnessed a murder at 13 years old. And my family selling drugs. I was working in a convenience store there selling drugs. Witnessed a murder at 13 years old, and that's when my mom, made the best decision she could for her son is, and had me move to a small town called Camilla, Georgia, with her sister.
Wow.
And from that time right there, it was a lot of positive coming in. Being the fact that my aunt was just like a military. You know what I mean? Like, we had to be at 6 in the morning. You know what I mean? We couldn't lay around. We were getting work. She lived on 40 acres of land, so we kind of took care of the land, took care of other people's land as well. So, just that alone, man, kind of taught us, a lot of discipline and, hard work by itself. So, having all that inside of the house, um, she made things a lot easier on the outside of it.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, because, you know, I think I grew up the same way. As far as drugs I'll just say within our communities. Uh, how did that play out? I mean, how did you? I mean, because I think what we did was, and it's actually a military thing. I think it's adjust, adapt, and overcome. Even though those situations are around us, either we can be a part of it
Hmm.
or we can, not be a part of it. What did you do to kind of stay away from it, even though it was going on around you?
Well, you know what was strange? The community I was living in was a little different, because anytime that I was out in the streets, anybody, that was around that seen me, they was like, man, what you doing out here? And they'd be like, come here. And then they'd jack me up like, man, I better not ever see you out here again. And, they'd always give me money and be
Yeah.
like, go, and I better not ever see you out here. So it's kind of like, I guess they seen that I had potential to do something positive. And anytime they see me out in the streets, they would make sure, they call me over and be like, man, I been ever see you out here again. And even though I was never out in the streets, like, if somebody asked me, what I wanted to be when I grew up, the first thing I would say was a police officer.
Mm.
And the reason being was because, I was from the hood, and I just felt like, I would be able to talk to people more, because I was from the hood and try to clean up the streets better than they were.
Wow, that's good. And I think about it too. Actually, I remember my mother, man, just telling me like, boy, we had a little spot that everybody was out. She's like, boy, don't let me ever catch you up there and see you up there. So that kept me off. And I always say, even Reggie Howard, Black Man Hill, I even say, or we say, like we from the curb, like smart enough to deal
Yeah.
with the streets, but not stay out there. And that's what you're saying. Like, and I remember so many guys, even for me, I played ball as a youngster, like yo, man, just play that ball. Stick to that because you don't need to be out here. It's dangerous out here. So that was very instrumental. And then like when did you realize that you were, I'll say, special, that this basketball thing was something that could could take you places, or when did you realize your talents?
That's funny, man, because that was one of the things that was probably a key to my success because I never knew how good I was. My thing was I started playing basketball at 11 years old, and that's pretty late.
Mm-hmm.
And kids can be rude, so kids gave me the nickname Manute Ball, and I ain't really like that name too much. So from that day, I was in the gym every single day from 11 years old, and all I wanted to do was work every day to get better. Every day I wanted to get better. But I never knew, I was so busy working. I never knew how good I was. I was always deaf to the streets and deaf to what people were saying about me. And I think that was a key to my success.
Yeah, and I think too, like like you said, it was like I always tell people in interviews, and I was on an interview, I was on a panel with Robin Williams, the comedian that committed suicide. I was on a panel with his son, and his son said, a lot of times when we go hard or we find a passion about something, it's our pursuit to our happiness.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I was like, wow, that's pretty deep. And I think even with you, it falls right in line, because now that was a place of happiness, that was a place of peace. And the only
Mhm.
thing you just wanted to be better than where you are. I mean, you created like your own standards, but you knew you had to excel in whatever you did. So I think, like you mentioned, kids, calling you names, or the name that they give you. How much of a factor was that peer pressure? Because now it weighs down on you. You know what I mean? I was a skinny kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm still got
Well,
chicken legs.
no, you know what was so great, man. And I always say I was just blessed with a lot of skills that really paved me to be the person that I am today. Like anytime I heard anything negative, I always wanted to turn it into a positive.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like anytime somebody said something negative and it stuck with me from a little kid. Like if somebody told me I couldn't do something and it was like, okay, well, all right, well, I'm gonna go work on that. I'm gonna be better next time. I'm gonna be better the next time, and every time you see me, I'm gonna be better at it. And that's just something that always stuck with me. If somebody called me, a nerd, I was okay with being a nerd because I know that was good. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like I
yeah,
made AB honor roll every year, you know what I mean, throughout school. And I was okay with being called that nerd. And I always tell people, kids all the time, it's okay to be different, but you gotta accept being different. And
that's
I
good.
was always accepting of being different than everybody else.
Now you make this transition. You move with your aunt. She was a drill sergeant like I was. So you make this transition. How was that transition? Once.
Well, it was probably the best thing happened to me, because my family that was in Florida was so busy working and doing their own thing, trying to survive. Trying to survive. Like nobody came to my basketball games when I was in middle school. I didn't have no support. On the basketball court, and when I went and moved to Camilla, Georgia, um, when I looked in the stands, all of my family was there, and to see all of them in the stands, I was like, oh, like that really took me to another level, because the only thing that was in my mind was like, man, what can I do to keep them coming to the game?
Yeah.
And and that made me work even harder. Like, you know what, I got to get better. My family's in the stands, and if I get even better, they'll keep coming.
You know what? That's now you got me thinking, because I was the same way. I started basketball late, uh, probably around the same age. I remember going to the middle school. Actually, they integrated us, so we was a good probably 45 minutes on the school bus. I mean, not the school bus, city bus to the school. I played football and basketball. I don't remember nobody at them games, but my friends. Um, High school, same thing. When I was a freshman. I started. I didn't start, but I was playing varsity. I suited up for varsity. I don't know if you recall. There was a guy named LaSalle Thompson. We
Mhm.
call him Big Tank. I'm
Right.
like I said, I'm 6'3", probably. I don't know. I'm probably 6'3", probably 170, 175. I think Sal was 6'11",
Yeah.
probably back then
Big
about
guy.
230. I, I should just try to tackle that joker. You know what I mean? There wasn't no stopping him, man. But I even think about them years, man. Like I never had anybody come to my game, man. So I mean, for you to get that kind of support once you move, I think is very important. You know, we'll talk about some things going on later and how important that support is. But now you're starting to excel in high school. You know, family coming to the games. What was that first letter? You got to get the letters. The letters are starting to come in.
Yeah, that was
Who showed you that letter? Where did that letter come from, or how was that first letter?
my first letter. I can remember. I was in. It was like the end of my ninth grade year. It was from Mercer University,
Mm,
and like I was excited, like because I never even college was never even on my mind. And for me to get that first letter, I was like, and my aunt was so excited. You know what I mean? Like I had never even had anybody excited for me.
mm-hmm,
You know what I'm saying? Like even when I used to show my mom and my family my report card in middle school, which I was always been an AB student, like they would just look at it and be like, mm-hmm. And that was it.
wow.
You know what I mean? So when I got my first letter, my aunt was like so excited, like, man, you got a letter uh from Mercer University, and like just the joy in her face like made me happy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So to get that first letter was like everything for me because I see how much it made her happy.
So now that is the letter from Mercer. Now there's more letters coming in. You know, now you probably getting big name schools. Uh, and now I imagine when did you make your decision to go to Georgia?
I make my decision early before the season started because I didn't want to really go through that process, um, during the season and all that kind of stuff because I was trying to concentrate on winning the state championship because we had already lost 3 in a row.
See that's the gem right there. I mean, anybody listen to this podcast, see this video. He made the decision before. I mean, going into a senior year, like only thing he had to concentrate on was a championship. You know, because I think a lot of kids today, you know, and it's not wrong. I mean, it's the parents, the coaches, they make that decision. But I think that is a lot of pressure on the kid going into a senior year. Like you said, if you know has a desire to win the championship, and that's a lot of pressures on them.
It is.
Who
It,
were the top three? I'm curious.
you know what's so funny, man? Like, I grew up without my father,
Mm-hmm.
and my high school coach was like my first positive role model that I had in my life. And once I was making a decision, I wanted to go to a school where, the coach looked like me.
Mm,
So the top three schools was like where black coaches were. University of Georgia had Tubby Smith there at the time. Tulane University had a black coach at the time, and I think it was Alabama had a black assistant that I had was fond of that I wanted to play for. So just going through that process, not growing up without my dad, and
yeah.
then my high school coach was really on me about my grade. He was also our principal. You know what I mean? So he was dropping in on my classes and he like really cared for me off the court and on the court. And I just felt like somebody, you know what I mean, that can understand a kid growing up without his dad. I feel like it had to be somebody that looked like me.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's so important because I think a lot of them and shout out. What's the high school coach name?
Rufus McDuffie.
Rufus McDuffie. I think there's a lot of Rufus McDuffies in this world that go unnoticed. Uh,
Hmm.
because a lot of them do. You know, they pour, they take on those responsibilities. You know, let's say as a dad, a brother, uncle, whatever, but they fill that void that, especially as a young man, that we need. Uh,
Absolutely.
so you make the decision. Who was at Georgia before you got there?
Well, Tubby was there before I got there, and the
What about
crazy.
players? What about players?
Uh, who was there? It was so funny, man. I didn't even really care who was there.
I love it. I
I
love
know
it.
it was I know it was a junior that was at my position that had been starting. G.G. Smith, Tubby's son, was there. Saul Smith was getting ready to be there. Um, Man, we really been pretty much had nothing there, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Yeah, it's pretty much just me coming in. Like, every school in the country recruited me except for two schools. That was North Carolina and Georgia Tech. And North Carolina had Antoine Jameson at the time,
Okay.
and Georgia Tech had Matt Harper, and
Okay.
and those two guys that spent 10+ years in the NBA.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how was that transition going from high school to college?
It was tough, man. You just talked about, how small you were, man. I was 6'8", 205, going into going into college, and I was highly recruited. I was like the number one combo forward coming out, like top 10 players coming out of college, and I had high expectations. But my first, 7 games, I think, was a struggle. I
Mm,
think I was averaging probably like 7 points, but I had all these high expectations. I was getting, knocked around, and I had started second guessing myself, and then I just, from that point, after that, I just started drowning myself in work, like working hard, getting in the weight room, doing all the things that I needed to do to, help myself get better. And once I did that, it was uphill from there.
yeah, I was fortunate, and I think you raise a great point. Being, like your freshman year, I was fortunate to go up to the Big East. The Big East has freshman fundamentals, where they bring all the freshmen in, some of the top players in the country, and they just go through some classes. They show them how this college life is going to be. They have some players that come in from the Big East, NBA players and former college players, but they're honest with them. Like, some of y'all not gonna make it. I mean,
Hmm.
in a sense, like not making it as far as basketball, but they won't be the standout player that they
Hmm.
were in high school.
Right.
And I think that plays a major factor. And one of the players that I know that's having a fabulous year is the kid down in Villanova, Cam. What is Cam's last name? But the big kid, I think about 6'8", good 230, 240 solid. But then you got some other kids that I remember that are, that got injured and they're not having the kind of year that you will want them. So that transition has got to be hard, because now you're going from high school, you're going to college. Now your studies. How were your studies back then?
It was really difficult for me, because I always made A's and B's, and I always say this. Like my high school just didn't prepare me for the things that I was going into in the college, because I really struggled. I struggled in college. I was just as hard I was working on the basketball court, I was working that much harder just to kind of keep my grades intact. I was in study hall when the hours I wasn't in school and hooping. I was in study hall because I was really fearing for me not being eligible to play
Mm-hmm.
basketball, because I just wasn't prepared. Everything that I had went through throughout my school, everybody was like, "How is he struggling? He made A's and B's throughout school," and it was just different, man. Everything was different. The training was different. Like everything just hit me, hard from the beginning. And then, the going through those 7 games and struggling, man, I was questioning myself.
Mm-hmm.
And and from that point on, I was just like, you know what, man, I'm gonna just do everything that I control, and don't leave nothing on the table, and put my head down and get the job done. And from there, everything started going uphill for me.
And when did you actually end up leaving Georgia?
Well, I played 2 years at University of Georgia, and we actually had. I'm really good friends with a guy by name Donnell Harvey, and he was
Mm-hmm.
like the number one high school player in the country at the time. And we had a new coach coming in, so he was calling me, and he was like Jumaine, if you staying in school, I'm coming to University of Georgia. So I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, man, let me know what you're gonna do, because I had led the SEC in scoring. I was second in the conference in rebounding. And agents was reaching out to me. They was like, you're gonna be a first rounder. And I had no intentions at all of leaving school.
Right.
Especially knowing I got the number one high school player coming in. We had a really good guard by the name of D.A. Lane, who was getting a lot of buckets. He broke like all the records Sharif Abdul Rahim in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a scorer. And then if we could have got Donnell Harvey, man, we could have shook some stuff up in the tournament. So I didn't have no intentions on leaving school. And the new coach came in, and I just wanted to make sure, because my daughter was about to be born. So
Mm.
I just wanted to be able to go talk to him and let him know, like, listen, man, I don't want to leave school. It's got to be something that I can do to be able to take care of my daughter while I'm in school. If not, I know how to do it.
Yeah.
I can leave school. And he was like, yeah, we'll figure out some things to make sure, your daughter's gonna be okay. And then one of the things he said to me was like, Jumaine, if you leave school right now, you'll be pumping gas in 10 years. And after I told you earlier, like normally when I hear negative things like that, I like to try to turn it into positive. So that really forced me to leave school early when I had no intentions on leaving.
Wow.
When he told me that, I didn't believe him.
Hmm.
I,
Wow.
I didn't believe him. So only thing that was going on in my mind was like, I'm prove him wrong.
Yeah.
And I called the agent right after that meeting. First of all, I got a call from D.A. Lane, who was wondering what I was going to do. And then Donnell Harvey, I told him I was leaving. I told him what happened. Then I called the agent. I say, look, prepare my workouts, man. And, every workout I went through, I wrote down on a piece of paper. Pumping gas in 10 years. I taped
Wow.
it on the wall. So when I woke up in the morning, I could see it. And that was my motivation.
Yeah. Once again, another gym, another gym. People gonna have to pay for this, bro. But you know what? Let me go back to Donnell Harvey, because I think, was he at, what was Donnell Harvey at? I'm thinking I seen this kid.
Well, as soon as I told him I was leaving, he went ahead and signed with Florida.
Right.
Hmm.
Where did he play high school ball at?
In South Georgia, we was rivals in high school.
I'm having a flashback now, because I'm thinking I seen this kid up
And
here in Jersey
he
for
played
the
for the
Adidas
Atlanta
camp.
he played for the Atlanta Celtics, and we were sponsored by Adidas. We always at the Adidas camp.
I know I seen it. I remember it. Bow-legged too, right? Dark
Yeah,
skin. Yep,
yeah,
I do. I do.
yeah,
I do.
yeah.
Actually, one of the kids, I speak highly of, a kid named Jerry Clark, um, played in that particular. He's on that Adidas circuit. Actually, I got his jersey in my basement. He signed it. Um, but yeah, so I remember this. So now you make the decision. You got a young daughter that's here. So now I'm pretty sure you're thinking about how you're going to support her, how you're going to support yourself, and even your family. And I know from players that I know, or professionals, and actually not only just from a sports perspective, but even from a corporate perspective, because family can get it mixed up sometimes.
No,
you
yeah.
know, they think you got a whole lot of money, and of course, I know you have more money than that. But they think you got all this money, and they think that they're entitled to certain shares because we're family. And I know you probably had cousins come out of the woodwork. Everybody come out. How much pressure is that, though?
Man, it was unbelievable pressure, man. Because like I said, like I come from a family of 16 aunties and uncles. You know what I mean, and half of them dropped out of middle school. Maybe one or two of them graduated high school. Um, I had a million first cousins, so now the second and third cousins coming out. So it was just more, And I tell people this, and they don't really understand. I tell them like me getting drafted was probably like the best day of my life, and at the same time the worst day of my life, because I was this 19-year-old kid who was just happy to be in the NBA and was happy that he made it, but I had no clue about what the other side was going to be like. Nobody had prepared or told me about what the other side was going to be like, or even making the decisions on my advisory team, who I was going to, have to, watch over my money, who my agent was going to be, who was going to, do all my management and all that kind of stuff. And that's a lot of pressure coming from a
Yeah.
19, somebody 19 years old in a world full of wolves. You know what I mean? And I got to try to make the right decisions. I got a daughter that's there, and then I get all these phone calls all the time, and from people that think I'm the savior now. Whatever problem they have, they put it on a 19-year-old, and not even all of that. I still got to go out and perform every night. where I'm a part of a 1%, somebody else coming in trying to get my spot. So I got to come in and keep my spot. So it was a lot of pressure, man. And a lot of times, it kept me out, kept me hanging out, doing a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have been doing, just trying to, stay focused and keep my mind off the outside.
Now I think you got drafted by the Sixers, right?
Well, I got drafted by the Hawks. It's
Okay.
funny story. My agent was based out of Philly, and
Mhm.
I just so happened to be um, at a Sixers practice and sat down and talked with Larry Brown for like an hour. And I was projected to be lottery. They invited me to the draft, and he was like, "Man, I really wish we had a chance to draft you, man. You seem like a great kid." And that's why I'm high on people, kids really having conversations and representing themselves in the right way, because you never know who can help you. Because I had only worked out for the lottery teams, and I was in that green room, and all the lottery teams had went by.
Mm.
And the Sixers had called up Atlanta because they had a pick coming up and told them to draft me, and they'll work out the logistics later.
Wow. Just based on that conversation.
Just based on the conversation, had nothing to do with basketball.
Matter of fact, you know what? I'm gonna stop right there because you said it had nothing to do with basketball. Because I've heard you speak to kids, and you tell them about some things that you've done as a professional athlete, but you also mention to kids other things they can do outside of basketball, not necessarily being on the court, but other jobs or whatever. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, my organization called Beyond the Hardwood, and I'm real big on that because I think a lot of these kids don't really understand, like, it's been less than 5,000 NBA players that ever put on a uniform, and that's including guys that just played one season. You know what I mean? Like, that's part, like, of a small group. And I understand everybody want to make the NBA. That's their dream, and I don't try to tear anybody's dreams down. I just like to give them numbers to let them see, how difficult that can be, because there's so many other opportunities out here where the percentage is higher. And you know, especially in our community, everybody wants to be that NBA player. And I just try to present jobs to them where, if you really love the game of basketball that much, you know what I mean? Like, mascots make make six figures, referees making millions of dollars. The guys that pulling those cords out of the sockets at the games making 200,000. If you're a female, you think about guys that's putting makeup on Shaq and Kenny is making $200,000 just to do that. So I just kind of speak on the things that they should research and try to find what their interests are, and try to present things to them, because I think a lot of times, we don't present things that's surrounding the game that's making a lot of money, because I think, when we think about a lot of money, I don't think nobody really puts in the time to research all the things that surround the games that's needed, and that's makes a lot of money. So what
Right.
I try to do is present that to them and let them know. I always write it down and keep the numbers next to them, so they can go research it themselves if that's something that they may be interested in, just to keep their mind off putting all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah, that's good because I mean I utilize that too to an extent because I think about me always me just always pushing men and encouraging men, but you know just like any organization, there's people behind the scenes, but just like I'll say a foundation. If you got a skyscraper, nobody knows the solid foundation is there. Only thing they see is the top of the building or the skyscraper, but there's got to be a foundation there. And then in regards to any situation, any business, we always see the things that's out there or how good the organization is ran, but the foundation of it all is where that key is. So I appreciate that. Tell it, and I know you got a book out, right?
Yeah. I released a book in April last year. It's called "The Last Man Standing Behind the Game," and it's just pretty much on me just speaking on. A lot of people see all the glitz and the glamour of athletes, man. So I just try to put out there a lot of things that come with it. A lot of things, with successful people. Anybody that's successful, they have a story. And, it's rather if they, want to tell it or not. So I've just pretty much kind of laid a lot of things out that I overcame and what I had to overcome to be able to become that successful basketball player, and all the struggles that I had even being that basketball player, and just kind of talking about my downs coming up, and the ups being in the league and the downs of the league, and you know throughout my life, man, I've been up and down, financially up and down, mentally up and down. So, just kind of let them know like everybody is human.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played in the NBA and I did all this stuff, but I'm having the same issues as everybody else. My bank account was just a little different.
Yeah. And and I know you talk about too, and I've heard you speak on it before, like your transition, a successful career in the NBA. I know you played overseas as well, but the real transition, another transition happened, that was becoming retired, and now becoming retired, and the NBA is not there anymore. Tell us about that transition.
It was tough. My transition was tough, man. I went through like a 3-year depression, man, where I was in the house, smoking and drinking every day because I didn't want to really face the fact that I had to find something else to do. But one of the things that I'm real big in now, Doug, is really, putting out there about adverse childhood experiences. Because I learned that I was using basketball as a coping skill. So when I started going to counseling, I started learning more about myself and the things that I went through as a kid that I had never coped with. And the simple reason why was that, I always tell people, when I grew up, my mom always told me, like, whatever goes on in this house stays in this house. So with that being said, everything that was going on around me stayed inside of me. You know what I mean? So that was something that I had learned going to counseling. Like, man, I had all this pain and hurt that was inside of me that I was taking out on the basketball court. So once basketball was gone, I was faced forward with all the things, that that was I was coping with through basketball.
Yeah.
And once I went to counseling, man, and learned, a lot of things about myself and why I was acting out the way I was acting out. Once you find out who you are, it's easier to fix it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm big on, you know, talking to people about going to counseling and stuff like that, because it really, really helped me learn who I was and why, I was acting out the way that I was.
Yeah. And we talked about it a little bit, and I'll just kind of put it out there in reference to Ja Morant. We talked about it because, like I told you, that situation hurts me just for the simple fact that, I still see a young kid. I know he's a young man. I still see a young man. Um, what do you think about that situation?
It's funny, man. It's funny to me because people called and asked me. They was like, "Man, what do you think about Ja Morant?" I said, "Man, I think he's going through something mentally." And people like, "Really?" And then I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 days later, and he had checked himself in somewhere, and people like, "Man, why you think about that?" I was like, "Man, because I've been there. I've been there where I was going through something and acting out in certain ways, and a lot of times when you're experiencing, so much coming on to you so fast, and so much success coming on so fast, you know what I mean? A lot of times the thing that you act out is pleasure. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And pleasure is not always the right thing to act out in. And that's just something that he went through, and I'm just happy that he recognized that he needed that help, and that lets him know that he had the right people around him to kind of get him to even be open to go there.
Yeah, that's another gem right there. You said that thing that he acted upon was pleasure, and pleasure is not always, especially in that kind of situation, it's not always good. And of course, even we talked a little bit. We didn't have social media like that, camera phones, and I mean, because we get it from a standpoint as far as being famous and want that recognition or whatever, uh, kind of done, you know, unwisely. Why do you think so many players like feel identify with it? And I heard some real life, I think about I heard Kevin Garnett talk about it. I heard AI name come up. He did the interview with Jalen Rose. But why do you think the players really identify so much of what he's going through?
Well, I mean, the thing is, we can identify, but we never had to go through the things that these younger kids are going through now because we didn't have the social media, man. Because we know, I talk to the guys about it all the time. Like, man, if we had social media back when we were playing, man, none of us would have been in the league. You know what I mean? So, and also at the same time, you know what I mean? I think that these kids get paid a lot more money than we did just to be able to do things privately, which costs a lot more money. Um, you know, so that's why we can relate. We can
Yeah,
relate because we've been through all of those things that they're going through. But they also got way more things in front of them than what we had.
yeah,
Even with our youth, as parents, we can go and say like, why would these kids do this and why would the kids do that? But they have a lot more in front of them that we had when we were kids. So it's kind of more of that we got to sit back and listen to them and kind of see what they want rather than just talking to them. Because once we can just listen and take in the things that they're experiencing and from their perspective, and then we'll be able to help them a little more just being open.
yeah. I'm definitely praying that that situation comes out. There are certain consequences that come with it, just like anything else. But we all know that we can get over consequences. Like I said, adjust, adapt, and overcome. Um,
Well,
so,
one of the things that to be honest with you, man, I'm happy it happened now.
mm,
You know what I mean? I'm glad it happened now rather than later because now he has that time it's happened, and now he knows the consequences, and now he knows, you know, what direction he need to head, and it's early in his career. So I think it's best that it happened now rather than later.
yeah, and I think with any situation, man, like whether you're a player or just when we see such situations that we've been in and we can identify, like there's always going to be a younger Jumaine Jones that you can identify or see. They're like, oh, I went through that same thing, or another Doug Reed or Kill. Like, yo, I went through that exact same thing. But I mean, we learned as we got older. That's why I said now when I saw it, I heard it. I'm like, that, I think about DJ Cal like it hurts my heart,
Yeah,
because we don't. I mean, for us, I'm just saying as black men, I never want us to be a spotlight where it's just negativity. And of course
right,
social media, the media, people, they would just they would try to destroy you,
right,
but and we got to take it, not take care of ourselves, but just like you were talking about, that support system. Support is major, and I really appreciate your answers for that. So tell us, like, what's going on with you now? What are you doing now?
man. You know what's funny, man? It seems like everything that that I've been doing been surrounding a lot of things that I made mistakes.
Mm,
Right now I work for a company called Educor, man. I get the opportunity to go in. I think we got like 16 different teams where I actually go in and educate the players. We talk to like the rookies to fourth year guys on financial literacy, and then we have a time where we talk to fifth year guys and up because they're like different conversations, different times in their careers. And I speak to them a lot about my experiences, man. And when I go in and I talk to them, I'm very transparent. I talk to them about my situation because my first 4 years in the league, after my fourth year in the league, I was broke. I didn't have not one dime. And it was more on me trying to save my family, you know what I mean, and try to take them out of poverty. Um, and I just being very transparent about a lot of things and a lot of money that has been stolen and just being open, just trying to keep their eyes open and be making mistakes about having everything under one roof. Just kind of explaining them, you should your agent here, your manager here, your attorney over there, and just kind of have it in different places because they're gonna try to tell you to have everything under one roof, but then you never know what's going on under that roof, and a lot of
wow.
money passing and go on where they stealing money from you, and just trying to educate them on things that they need to keep an eye out on people and have everything in different places so that they can, when you got everything in different place, nobody knows who's watching.
Yeah.
And you can
That's
always
true.
hire people and, speaking to them about FINRA, FINRA, where if you want to do businesses with people, always go research them, try to see if any other deals came up that was bad. Just educate them on things that they need, little things they need to, ask questions about. And if they're financial people or their attorneys or any of those people have any, um, you know, anything bad about them asking these questions, then that should let you know a whole lot right there. So
Yeah.
we just have a list of things that they should be asking, about making their decision about their advisory team, the people they have around them. We even talk about, ladies, you know what I mean? Like everybody that you're surrounding yourself with, and just let them know how important and how they're the biggest targets on earth. They're making them almost the most money, in the States,
Hmm.
guys making a lot of money, you big targets. So we just try to make them aware and keep them educated on experiences I've had. And it's been fun, man, because I've been walking out of these locker rooms, man, and guys, come up to me like, man, thank you. I appreciate this, man. You're like, man, I think you done changed my way of thinking on everything. And first thing I say is like, well, thank you. That let me know I'm doing my job.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you love the kids, man. Tell us more about your organization.
Yeah, beyond the hardwood is something more where I like to get out and reach out to the kids and just get out in the community, keep some positive energy with the kids, talk to them. Easier for me to get out in the community because these kids so into sports and sports driven. For me to get out and have these real conversations, and then they understand that I've come from the same area they came from, and just kind of motivating them to keep going because I had all the excuses in the world to quit. You know what I mean? And that was the reason I wrote my book too, to try to get more speaking engagements, to get out, to be
Yeah.
able to reach out to our youth, to let them understand, like, it's only a mistake if you do it twice. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? The first time you do it, you should be learning from that, and keep it going. Just try to keep some positive energy, man. I'm always trying to feed some positive energy into anybody that's around, and I just use my platform to be able to get out and do that.
Yeah, that's what's up. And I know we got in June 16th through the 18th with the Black Excellence Festival. We got you coming down. Probably be a part of that power panel with Malik Yoba and Stephen A. King. And then I know you're bringing your book, so you'll be signing autographs. So I'm looking forward to that. But I want to end this thing. I got something called the Let's Go Challenge, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Only thing, and I think I'm gonna stick with players because I'm still a big basketball guy. So I'll say a player's name, and you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. One word, two words, however you want to express it.
Okay.
You tell me what comes to your mind. You ready?
Yep.
Vern Fleming.
Crazy.
All right. You making this hard already. All right. Hopefully Vern Fleming don't come after me, man.
That's my
Uh,
guy. That's my guy.
uh, Dominic Wilkins.
Athletic.
Yeah, I'm be honest. Dominic Wilkins was the first player that I seen dunk and bring that joint all the way down, all the way down to his
Oh,
leg, to his thighs. You know, unbelievable. At Georgia, that's why I say that. I throw another one. Gary Payton,
glove defense.
Kevin Garnett,
Ooh, preparation.
Doc Rivers,
Ooh, genius.
Larry Brown.
Ooh, mastermind.
I'm gonna throw you off on this one. The Russian Basketball League.
Physical.
LeBron James.
Ooh, the best all around player we've ever seen.
Kobe.
Second best player to ever do it.
Shaq.
Most dominant big man ever.
And last but not least, Michael Jordan.
The GOAT.
Jumaine, I appreciate you so much, man, for coming on the Let's Go show. Not only as being a player, with the stardom you had, but actually as a friend, because we just hit it off, man. I mean, just from
right off the gate.
right off the gate, you know. And because I remember you saying, like, you wasn't sure if anybody would want to hear your story. And I'm like, man, is you crazy? Of course they want to hear your story, you know. And your story, you're telling your story across the nation, man, actually, and I know across the world. So I appreciate that. So, we'll end it with this. This has been the Let's Go show with Doug Reed with Jumaine Jones. And you know what I say? Let's go, baby. Peace. I'm out.